Hello, everybody. Welcome back. So I'm back with another review on another shark movie, and actually, this shark movie turns 25 years old this year. Well, actually, it turned 25 years old back on Sunday, July 28th, but I don't do a lot of videos on Sunday, so that's why I'm doing it today. But I mean, the movie I'm specifically talking about is the 1999 summer blockbuster Deep Blue Sea. I wanted to discuss Deep Blue Sea mainly not only for like its impact, on like this genre of movies that are about sharks, but also because I feel like this movie has been seriously overlooked and heavily criticized when it's actually a very legit movie. I think it's actually been underrated and people jump to conclusions way too soon about it, especially when it first came out. As in my humble opinion, Deep Blue Sea is probably behind Jaws when it comes to shark movies, and it's one of my personal favorites as well. So, Deep Blue Sea is about the scientists at an ocean facility who are using sharks as lab rats to come up with a cure for Alzheimer's. During tests for one of their investors, the sharks start causing mayhem, and a simple test turns into basically a fight for survival. Only later, while they're trying to fight for their lives against these sharks, they later find out that the sharks are not acting normally. They are not like acting. They're acting more with coordinated attacks by flooding their facility. They later find out that the main scientist, who was played by Saffron Burrows, genetically altered the sharks to make their brains bigger. And as a side effect, it made the sharks smarter. I mean, yeah, what could possibly go wrong? But I mean, that's the story pretty much, as basic as I can get it. This movie was directed by Renny Harlin, and during the 90s, he was like, mainstream, the guy to go to when it came to action films. Now, yes, a lot of films that he did probably were like Oscar worthy or anything like that, but a lot of the films he did make were good and profitable. So, I mean, he was a good choice, in my opinion, for, this movie. And this probably, in my opinion, was the last movie he did that was, like, probably considered great. Because he has been directing movies, of course, after this. He didn't just drop off the map. Well, let's just say, though, that his career kind of, like, after the 90s, kind of moved to a more mellow approach. A lot of his movies nowadays in the 2000s, didn't really capitalize like they did in the 90s. It wasn't just Renny Harlin's direction, though, that made this movie great, in my opinion. It was also the well-rounded cast we had. The cast for this movie is actually pretty solid of a cast, if you think about it. I mean, along with Saffron Burrows, we had Thomas Jane. We also had LL Cool J. And then also Stellan Skarsgård, and as well as Samuel L. Jackson. So a pretty well-known cast right there. Some pretty legit actors that are well remembered now. I mean, yes, a few of them had bigger roles and are more remembered than the others. I mean, Saffron Burrow, of course, like I said, is the main star of this film, but I mean, I think the real star though was LL Cool J. Not only did he have some pretty good moments that were also like some of those cheesy moments, but also he had some intense moments, and he was actually the real hero. He didn't just kill one, he killed two of the sharks in this movie. So, I mean, that's a badass right there. The one thing I didn't like, though, is that Thomas Jane's character didn't get as much attention, like being the hero like LL Cool J did. So, I mean, Thomas Jane was a badass in this film, and he was probably my favorite character, but he didn't get to kill a single one of the sharks. And I was like, man, I really wish he got to kill a shark, but LL Cool J got to kill two of them. So, I mean, that's just as good there. Along with the director and the cast, it was also the way the movie was made that also made it really good. A lot of how the scenes were done. Now, back in during the time, CGI was being used, but it wasn't what we see now. So, I mean, a lot of shark movies and a lot of other movies mainly rely on CGI to do things. But back then in 1999, it was still a working process. It wasn't amazing yet. So, I mean, they were still trying to, perfect it. So, they used a lot of animatronics here. And I actually liked that about this movie because the animatronics made the sharks look more real, using only CGI when it was really needed, and then animatronics all the other times. And it felt like the movie had a much more realer aspect instead of seeing some sharks doing some crazy things with CGI. So that's one thing I like about this. I'm always up for realism over CGI, in my opinion. Like I said before, in my opinion, Deep Blue Sea has been overly criticized and is a very underrated movie. If you guys have seen it, I recommend watching it again and giving it another chance because there are things about it that are really fantastic when it comes to shark movies. And if you haven't seen it, I think it's worth something giving it a chance this summer. Definitely Deep Blue Sea, in my opinion, is one of the best shark movies to ever be made.